Ohio State leaves no room for doubt, dismantling Purdue in a 45-0 shutout.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your live postcast here after Ohio State's 45-0 win, shutout win over Purdue. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And this postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Simply visit FanDuel.com to get started. During this postcast, we'll dive into the players of the game, one thing that can't happen anymore, and if we're going to get a new look on defense going forward. But first, the Buckeyes had no problem dismantling Purdue, making light work of the Boilermakers, and really showing everybody that when Ohio State flexes their muscle, this is what can happen. And Ohio State offensively and defensively, they did a lot of things good, got a lot of things done correctly. Will Howard looked good. Treveyon Henderson, my goodness, had a phenomenal game today. On defense, Eddric Houston got the start. Tyleik Williams did not play. Instead of Caden McDonald, who I thought was going to get the start, if 91 couldn't go, it was no. Let's free 96 into the first unit. And he did a phenomenal job. Really surprised me with how well he played today. You got Cody Simon and Sonny Styles getting the job done. Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom. I mean, across the board. Coaches did a good job as well. They got the job done. You're supposed to be Ohio State and dismantle Purdue. That should be something that should be expected. It should not be Purdue's coming in. They're hungry. They're bad, but they're hungry. And they're going to come into your house and make some things shake. They made a few things shake at times, but ultimately Purdue realized they couldn't get nothing done. And that wasn't a stretch of the imagination. Purdue realized, and Hudson Card and Devin Mockabee and the other guys that are on Purdue's offense, they quickly realized if we can't run when the Buckeyes have 3 down linemen, we can't do anything. The numbers back that up. But my eyeballs even told me early on in the game, the only way that Purdue could move the ball was against Ohio State's 3 down lineman look. That I was glad to see. Just curious why it came now and it didn't happen next week or the week after that or earlier this year. But Ohio State took care of business, man. I'm not here to nitpick and say, well, they got this wrong on 3rd and 2, and why couldn't they get this in a passing game? This ain't that today. This is not that kind of show where we're going to nitpick everything. For Ohio State, for Ryan Day, for Chip Kelly, what you want to do is be efficient. You want to be clean. You want to be able to figure some things out more with the offensive line, have communication be better across the board, clean things up there in the passing game. You want to make sure guys aren't stopping mid-route, that you're running through routes, that you're finishing routes. If the ball catches your hand, you catch the ball. There are a lot of things the coaches want that happened today on defense. Even though you got a new guy starting on the defensive line, you want to make sure that he is well prepared for the game. You want to make sure that the game plan that the coaches put out there, that those things work, and they did. If Purdue scored, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I would have not come on here and said, well, man, that's a bad football team that only has one win. That was against the FCS school, and you let them win, or excuse me, you let them score. You're trash. You're ridiculous. This is obnoxious. Y'all ain't here to do all that. No, it's a Saturday afternoon. Many of you are probably out there in the shoe having a good old time and the beautiful weather. Trust me, this weather we have right now in November, it's phenomenal for those of us that love going to football games. And if you were there, great. I would love to hear some of you. Hop on the YouTube chat. Maybe you're listening or watching while you're walking back to your car, or maybe you left the game early, you're at home, whatever it may be. Let me know what it was like there in the shoe, because I'm very curious, man. It looked like it was beautiful. The fans were live, man. The sideline wasn't dead today. I saw that early on in the game. The fans were engaged all throughout the game, and that helped out. All of that helps out. It also helps out when Jeremiah Smith is doing Jeremiah Smith things. And today he ended up breaking the rest of Cris Carter's freshman receiving records at Ohio State. So now Jeremiah Smith holds the record for most receiving touchdowns as a freshman, most receiving yards as a freshman, and most receiving touchdowns as a freshman. The yards mark he broke a week ago. He broke the other 2 marks today. And Jeremiah Smith could have easily had 10 catches, another touchdown, and over 100 yards. Like, that's almost what it could have happened today. And a lot of us are maybe thinking Ohio State should expect this from him every single week. But Ohio State should also expect what we got today, where Ohio State was playing a lesser team in Purdue and just took care of business. Next week, Ohio State's going to Wrigley Field, the friendly confines in a baseball stadium. It's going to have a different feel. It's going to have a different vibe as far as the pregame festivities and the pregame walk and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter. Ohio State, it has enough in their arsenal to go in there to Wrigley Field, and they can have the same type of performance today. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Northwestern's not going to score, because even today, as I predicted Purdue was going to score 6 points, they left points on the field. They missed 2 field goals, one from 21 yards. The other one was, I believe, from 35. No, it was at least 30 yards. Plus, he missed 2 kicks. You don't expect as a kicker to go in there, to miss a short one, and to miss another one's a little bit further away, but it happened. Purdue gifted Ohio State some stuff, but the Buckeyes defense, if you are a team that in any game you hold your opponent to under 100 rushing yards and 2.6 yards a pop, and you hold the opposing team to only 108 yards of passing yards, you're doing things right. And as a team, Purdue threw for 43% as a team passing. 2 quarterbacks, Hudson Card and Ryan Brown, were the 2 quarterbacks that played for Purdue today. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about a team that took care of business and really made sure from start to finish the leaders got the job done. The coaches filtered in a lot of backups. And so it's really kind of another mark for Ohio State right now is they're able to play a lot more backups early in this game to get them more reps, try some different things defensively, and it still worked. Like, we're not talking about a team that tries some different things defensively, that Ohio State used some more backups earlier than normal, and Ohio State and Purdue scored 2 or maybe 3 touchdowns. No, we're after the fact talking about a team in Ohio State that tries some different things defensively, almost kind of use it like a preseason game. Even offensively, some of the stuff that happened, I'm thinking this shouldn't happen. This isn't game 1 or game 2. This is literally game number 9. Buckeyes are 8-1, and you're trying this now. Use what works. Get your ones off the field, because Ohio State realistically should not have had to have their ones off the field in the fourth quarter. You should have had all your starters off the field by midway through the third, because Ohio State should have been up 35-0. They were not. And then midway through the third quarter, you should have been 42-49-0. That's literally what should have happened, but it didn't, man. Like, here I am trying to start to nitpick again, and I'm not trying to. It's a shutout win, man. You're beating a Big Ten opponent. You're in your home. It's big noon. For those of us that don't like noon kickoffs, you're still having the that network's big time pregame show, giving you a lot more attention. I know you're not in. I know they weren't there in Ohio State, but that's still a game that they're trying to prepare for, because that's right after the pregame show goes off. You're getting a lot more attention. You take care of business, man. Like, Ryan Day had a game plan. Jim Knowles had a game plan. Kelly did, and yeah, you want more points. We all want Ohio State to score every time that they get out there on offense, and had a defensive touchdown by Jack Sawyer. He did so many good things well, man. We also got to see some things go well and maybe a little shaky at times with the potential new look on the Buckeyes defense. We saw it today against Purdue. I'll share my thoughts about that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you all for freaking Locked On Buckeyes. In this postcast, a part of your college football Saturday, some of you right now might be trying to tap into that Michigan-Indiana game that's happening right now as we speak on CBS. And I'll be trying to look into that after this as well. I'll also be trying to look into this wrinkle Jim Knowles pulled out on defense. Got 3 down linemen, Mitchell Melton was in a 2-point stance off the line of scrimmage at linebacker depth, but a little bit wider than even a wide 9, and almost getting a running start to rush the quarterback. Now, when Jim Knowles came into Ohio State, when Ohio State hired him, on this show, we spent a lot of time breaking down the defense Jim Knowles was bringing to Columbus, and we were talking about how Jim Knowles has this hybrid defensive end linebacker position. It's a jack position. He's going to use 3 down linemen. And all of a sudden, you get this guy that's kind of a freelancer. He's a little bit of a roamer, and he's going to be able to move back and forth. I understand Ohio State tried to re-engineer the defense after the Oregon game, and that's worked really, really well because over the past couple of games we've seen Penn State, and even against Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue, the defense has been so much better in stopping the run and in the passing game. But pulling out this look now and then quickly realizing that, well, Purdue's going to have gaps, and they're going to run right where the gaps are on the Ohio State's defense. That was one thing that was confusing. I understand why they tried to stick with it, especially with the crew that they put out there, but it was very confusing. If this is what's going to happen moving forward, my only thought is don't have your backups there, man. Any given year at Ohio State, if you put your backups in, the other team's going to run at you. No matter if you're in a 4 down lineman or 3 down lineman, they're going to try to run because that's their best chance to try to establish the run. And Purdue's trying to do it today. I told you going into the game, Devin Mockabee is a player. He's one of the brighter spots on Purdue's offense. It has been there for, I believe, a long time. 13 carries on for 73 rushing yards, 5.6 yards a pop. And I guarantee if you want to go back and chart all of his runs, the biggest runs came when Ohio State had Kenyatta Jackson Jr., you had Caden Curry at your ends, and I think that nose was Caden McDonald, who was a dude, don't get me wrong, but man, that was one of those wrinkles where I'm sitting here like, I like it. I would like it better if it were Caden McDonald, and then he was on the outside of him were JT and Jack. I would love that a whole lot more because I guarantee those runs that Mockabee was having wouldn't have been there. Now, you saw a bunch of Melton be that Jack, that hybrid spot at the Jack position. Well, I saw some CJ Hicks be that Jack position. So you got to see some guys be there, which is cool. I like the wrinkle. It should have been there from day one with Jim Knowles. Also, maybe you're waiting for a healthy Mitchell Melton. I get that. I also would like to see Ohio State do this with their ones. Maybe the linebackers are Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, and Cody Simon, and those are the 3. Cool. I get it. And you want to rotate CJ Hicks and Mitchell Melton at that hybrid spot. Cool. But if that's what you're going to try and do, make sure that you either have Caden McDonald or Tyleik Williams, who was a healthy scratch. He could have played today. He was a healthy scratch. But make sure you have Tyleik Williams at the nose, and you have either Jack and JT on the ends. One of the two. Now, if you don't have one of them out there, make sure that Jack or JT is out there all the time with this specific lineup. Because I do believe if you do that, some of those runs don't happen. Because I think JT and Jack are going to do more of this in the NFL. They're going to be more 3-4 defensive ends with their hand in the dirt in the National Football League. There won't be the outside linebacker in a 3-4 set that's going to be more of your speed rusher. That's not their game. That's not their jam. But I'm not mad that Ohio State pulled this out today. I'm not mad about it at all. And I understand why Purdue realized we can try to run the ball. And I'm sitting here watching the game. My notebook today has some notes in it, and this is something I wrote down early in the second quarter or first quarter where they pulled it out. The 3-3-5 was on the 3rd drive of the game, and 17 was a jack. Cool. The one thing I would like, figure out the rotation, figure out who is going to be there and when they're going to be there, and let it go. Also, they didn't get no type of pressure on the quarterback with this set. Now, you would think you got a hybrid, you would be able to do that, right? You got a guy who's more of a speed rusher, kind of getting a running start. Didn't really happen consistently. The Buckeyes are still getting pressure mainly with blitzing, which I think they had a few sacks today. So I'm not really upset about the amount of sacks Ohio State had in the game because I think when you're playing a team like this, Ohio State had 4. They had 4 sacks. Simon had a half sack. Jack Sawyer had a half sack. Tuimoloau had a half sack. Hancock had a half sack. And then Sonny Styles had 1. And Joshua Mickens from my hometown, my high school, had 1 as well. Just fix the tweaks with the personnel. I wouldn't run it with your backup D line. Run it with your ones. And that would have been a good way to not allow Purdue to either get into the red zone to have a shot to even score a touchdown or a field goal. Just run it with your ones, man. I'm not mad about the wrinkle. I just think you need to fine-tune the personnel, the players that are out there when you call it. I also think there's one thing that needs to get cleaned up, and it needs to get cleaned up now. Ohio State has national championship aspirations this year, and they're a team that unfortunately has a player on defense that's one of the most penalized players in the country in Davidson Igbinosun. Very physical guy. He uses that to his advantage numerous times when he's out there on the field. But unfortunately, what we have seen this year too many times, pass interference, defensive holding, or pass interference. You want to win a natty? That stuff can't happen. That stuff can't happen at all. I understand they're trying to figure out some things in practice that will allow, hopefully help Davidson Igbinosun to not have these things happen to him. On the one play, they called it, homie was holding my man's jersey, going up and down his jersey, trying to figure out, man, where can I grab for multiple seconds. That can't happen. It can't happen at all, because that's the kind of stuff that's going to allow a team in today's game. Purdue would have gotten off the field. No, pass interference. Purdue gets a first 15 yards. Purdue gets a first down because of that pass interference call. That can't happen at all. Also, there was something that happened with Eddric Houston. Now, I'm not excusing it because he's a freshman, but I understand why it happened because he's a freshman. There was a play. I forget if it was a runner pass, but there was a play that the Purdue offensive lineman fell and landed on Eddric Houston at the end of the play. Eddric Houston wasn't happy about it. When Eddric Houston got up, he ended up two-hand pushing the big offensive lineman. Now he kind of fell out. I'm not going to say it was a flop or it wasn't. Joel Klatt talked about that on the broadcast. But one thing I will say, though, is this. You can't afford those penalties. And if you're a guy who's been on the bench and you're trying to get on the field more consistently, you can't do that. You can't do it at all, because that's the kind of stuff that will allow you to find more time on the sidelines, be right there with Larry Johnson. In the times where you're on the field more in a certain package, he's like, no, you're going to stay over here. And you start getting disgruntled. You start getting in your head asking, man, why am I over here, man? I'm always on this unit. We can't afford for you to be a knucklehead. We can't afford for you to go off. We can't afford for you to get an unsportsmanlike penalty called during this portion of the game. We can't afford for that. For Eddric Houston, I understand it, man. Trust me, I've been on the football field. I have been there. There have been times where there have been cheap shots. There have been times when I have done things that I should not have done. It happens. It's the heat of the moment. It's a physical game. That stuff happens. This is a teachable moment. It's a coachable moment. But also, man, realize that stuff can't happen. But if it does, there are consequences. Not only via the referees, because you're the second guy. You know how it is. You're in school or you're playing a sport and somebody's poking you, maybe literally or figuratively using a pen. So you're like, man, they really poking me with a pen? Somebody's poking you or trying to get under your skin. And the next thing you know, you're sitting here like, man, I can't take no more of this. I can't take no more of this. You really get under my skin. The next thing you know, you do something back to him. Now, he maybe have been doing it for 15 minutes or for 15 plays or for an entire quarter of the first of the game. And he's just going after you and over and over and over. The next thing you know, man, enough is enough. You poke back, man. You may be a two-hand push like Eddric Houston, or may it be you spout off at the mouth and you start saying stuff you shouldn't say. Whatever it is, you do that. He started it. You're the one that got caught, and you get in trouble. We saw that today with Eddric Houston. That can't happen, because now they know they could get inside your head. People already know they could get inside Davidson Igbinosun's head, but now they know if 96 is out there during a crucial moment, they can get in his head. They can start it. Eddric Houston might try and finish it, and that 15-yard penalty could lead to bad things for Ohio State as the Buckeyes are trying to beat Michigan, win the conference, and win the Natty, all three of them in 2024. What we saw today was a lot of good plays from a lot of good players, and some of them made a bigger impression on me and my head than some others. Over the next few minutes, going to time to talk about the guys that stood out in the Buckeyes shutout win of Purdue. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhoodgold.com. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And all the action goes down. Remember, it's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making this Locked on Buckeyes postcast a part of your college football Saturday. This is one of the best parts of the show, one of the most enjoyable parts of the show that I have every single week. We used to do just an offensive and defensive player of the game, but a week ago we started a new trend to kind of highlight more guys. Maybe it's one play, or maybe it's a series of plays where guys just set apart and stand out bigger than the rest. I can't look any further than number 4, Jeremiah Smith, who now is the holder of 3 of the records that Cris Carter set during his freshman year in Columbus all the way back in 1984. Jeremiah Smith now holds the record for most receiving yards as a freshman, the most receptions as a freshman receiver, and also the most receiving touchdowns of any Ohio State Buckeye in the phenomenal career of the Ohio State football program. Jeremiah Smith is unique, man. He's one of a kind. We've said it all year. When he's out there on offense, he's the best guy on the field. That's not taken away from anybody else, but more realizing how great this young man is. He came in the summer and said, "Oh, I'm an Iron Buckeye." He started the year off, scored touchdowns right away, and showed everybody it's going to be very hard to stop him. He's made one-handed touchdown after one-handed touchdown. He's making contested catches. He's caught passes in one-on-one situations where it seems like no one's going to get the ball, but Jeremiah Smith does. And today against Purdue, Jeremiah Smith showed everybody, hey, give me the ball, man. A drag route, one-on-one situation, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get the ball. I'm going to score. I'm going to move the ball down the chains, and you can rely on me. Hats off to Jeremiah Smith. I'm so glad that he's a Buckeye, and I can't wait to see him do more things down the road. He also has a shot to break all-time Big Ten receiving records this year. So it's not only is he going to break Ohio State receiving records that were once held by a freshman named Cris Carter, he had a shot to break Big Ten records too. Why? He's that good. He's that dude. And Jeremiah Smith is one of those guys, short, intermediate, or even deep passes. He can get it. One-on-one, bracket coverage, a regular cover 3, cover 2, doesn't matter. He can get that job done. Jeremiah Smith is fun to watch. And I'm glad that he got that thing done today, got that monkey off his back, do some more stuff next week in Wrigley Field, only preparing yourself for the following game, the following week against Indiana, the Hoosiers, who are coming to Columbus trying to upset Ohio State. That's their plan. Ohio State should win the game. But Jeremiah Smith, if he plays like we think he can, and if Will Howard can really put some more oomph consistently on that deep ball, that might be what's needed for Jeremiah Smith to make multiple big-time catches during that big-time matchup that day. Also, G. Scott Jr., man. He is a guy that over the years here on this show, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And I believe before last year's season in 2023, I did a segment on the show talking about is this G. Scott Jr.'s breakout year? Because we were just waiting for it. The transition from receiver to tight end. I got why he did it. Also realized it was going to be a 2 or 3 year project, because not only was he going to have to gain weight, he was going to have to figure out how to come off consistently and fast enough in a 3-point stance, how to block on the line versus block out in space. Those are just some of the things that he needed to learn to fit Ohio State's offense. Now, he still has the hands, but as you get bigger, weight-wise, that stuff might be a little bit harder. It might be harder to catch balls. Your flexibility and the range of motion might be a little bit different too. So there was a lot of stuff going on with G. Scott Jr. where I'm sitting here thinking, man, he's got an uphill battle. He has to climb uphill for quite a long time. And today against Purdue, he did catch a touchdown pass. And I'm sitting here, I was very happy for him, man. I wasn't trying to be critical of him during that moment. Just more celebrate him. G. Scott Jr. had one catch, was the only catch with the touchdown for 15 yards. And just happy, man. I mean, what's not to be happy about a guy who changes his position during his career, and he works and grinds. Not only changing positions, not going from guard to tackle on offensive line, or going from running back to a slot. You're literally going from a wide receiver to a tight end, and having to gain 30 pounds to do so, because your former weight wouldn't hold up, and all of a sudden now you're doing that at such a high level. Man, just celebrate that. Clap it up, man. Clap it up. I love seeing this from G. Scott Jr. I also love seeing Treveyon Henderson have the game that he had. I got a few more. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. Treveyon Henderson, a guy who is now not starting, but really, if it's Henderson starting or Judkins, I don't think it matters. But Henderson today, by the numbers, 6 carries, 85 yards, 1 touchdown, had a long of 29 yards on the receiving game, 3 catches, 43 yards, and a long of 32. Even put him out wide as a wide receiver on 1 possession. Yes, he was one-on-one with the linebacker, but it was the fact that they're showing differences in a different part of his game than what we normally get. And I told my wife during the game, he should play more in the slot. Now, maybe not split out wide by himself, but he could. But he should play more in the slot, because if you have Judkins in the backfield and you have more of Henderson in the slot on the same side as Jeremiah Smith, what are you going to do? Or on the same side as Emeka Egbuka, what's your game plan as a defense? Or maybe you have Smith out wide, you have Egbuka on the inside of him, and you have Henderson on the inside of him between the tackle and Egbuka. What's your game plan as a defensive coordinator? You might have one, but it might not work because these guys are too good. Hats off to Treveyon Henderson, man. I'm very happy for him. Also, Eddric Houston getting that start today. The numbers are only a portion of what Eddric Houston has done during this year. He has transitioned from a defensive end, which was what he was recruited to be. Now he's playing D tackle, the 3-tech. He had 3 tackles today. One of them was a solo tackle. And even if you just erase that penalty, he did great in his first start, man. I mean, hats off to him. Did a phenomenal job with that start today. Sonny Styles and Cody Simon continued to get better and better and better. Simons was a leading tackler with 6 tackles. Sonny Styles had 5 tackles. He had a sack and a pass breakup as well. These 2 guys, if you want to run a 4-2-5, those are your 2 guys out there. They're both doing great. They're both doing phenomenal things. And it's fun seeing Sonny Styles really come into his own and be more consistent there as a linebacker. My gut says he'd be around in Columbus next year. So you're getting him another year playing linebacker. May he be the Mike? Maybe. And if he is, he's just raising his draft stock. And I think he's able to do it. Also, Jack Sawyer getting that scoop and score. JT Tuamaloa had the forced fumble. Jack Sawyer was right there to scoop that thing up. And before he did it, I was sitting here saying, score, because I saw a bunch of red jerseys and green grass in front of them. Pick that thing up. No matter if you're running a 5.40 or 4.2840, don't matter. Pick that thing up and scoot. Now, he didn't run a 4.28 or 5.5, but I knew though he did scoot his way all the way to the end zone. What are your final thoughts about this game? Drop them in the YouTube comment section. Are you happy that Ohio State beat them 45-0? I'm sure you are. Did you think Ohio State was going to score 50 or 60 points against Purdue? Let me know your thoughts. Put them right there in the YouTube comment section, or leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and you can leave them there too. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today and a part of your college football Saturday. For your second listen on this college football Saturday, make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because Craig Sheeman is the guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes, the postcast after Ohio State's 45-0 blowout, shutout of those pesky Purdue Boilermakers. They wanted to be the Spoilermakers today, but Ohio State said, y'all, that's not going to happen.